Hello everyone, I'm Charles Brown, Portfolio Manager with CB3 Financial. We're glad you've joined us for Retirement Realities. This is episode 4, All's Not Fair in Money and Marriage. This is a result that we found from our research. We, meaning myself and Dr. Dave Gursky, the authors of the book, Not Your Father's Retirement, from which the material in this podcast is taken. I expect this will be 12 to 15 episodes walking through what we discovered in the book and sharing these insights with you. And we hope you'll stay with us for the entire series. But today, whenever you're watching us, when all's not fair in love and marriage and money and marriage, and it just gets all messed up. And I'm going to be mostly reading, this is chapter 1 in the book. So a deficit lifestyle, which I've talked about before on the program, is spending more than you earn. Now, as long as you're making good money, I guess you could say that's okay. Look at the United States government. Unfortunately, our own federal government, and actually some state governments, but they can't print money, so they can't do it for too long. But our federal government spends way more money than they take in tax revenue. Okay? But again, they can print money. Nobody else can print money, or at least they're not going to print money. You can't print money that can be used in the commercial marketplace. So this deficit lifestyle gets so many people in trouble because credit is something that is very readily available. So look at the case of the Brennans. So Carl and Brenda, they had a very comfortable lifestyle. They were extravagant, all right, but they managed to pretty much pay their bills off, and they had this great income coming in because he was self-employed. It allowed Brenda to stay home, and Carl went to the office every day, brought home a really good check. Unfortunately, the business was lost, and this was some time ago before the pandemic, but basically they didn't adjust their lifestyle. Now, I know from being self-employed that there can be ups and downs, ebbs and flows, and when things are not as good, you have to make adjustments. You know, our government should do the same thing, but that's another story for another time. But realize that if you don't make adjustments, you're going to run up debt. And when debts mount, it often can be a dividing force in a marriage. And the story of this couple is because they were not able to communicate. And remember, this program is not just about finances. The retirement reality is this is both a financial change of life as well as a psychological change of life. Sometimes it's also a geographical change of life. But in this program, we're mostly concerned with financial and psychological. But because these two people were not able to communicate and express their concerns, in this case, Carl just not wanting to accept the reality that his business had failed, they lost hope and their marriage ended on a very bitter note. Now, Carl met Amy and they remarried, and he found that he was able to have open communication with Amy. Now, their financial situation, Carl and Amy, now in a second marriage, was not as positive, not as affluent as his first marriage, but they were able to get on the same page. They met their obligations for alimony and child support and able to live comfortably, although modestly. Now, they achieved something that Dr. Dave calls marital oneness, which is basically agreeing as one. There are many people that believe that that's how God created us, that when a man and woman join each other and become a married couple, they become one. And I can tell you from experience that when you're able to make decisions in the area of money and come together in oneness, it makes a huge improvement in your quality of life and also sustains the ability for a marriage to live through some really rough times because you've committed to this oneness in decision making. So Carl and Amy basically made this decision that they were going to live modestly. Carl, because he was coming from a background where he knew he had made huge mistakes that had cost him his marriage. And Amy, because she had never had that much affluence, so she wanted to make sure that their marriage, Carl and Amy's, didn't end up the same way that Carl's previous marriage had ended up. And again, because this program is not just about finances, think about the children. So Brenda, the first wife, was very angry, very bitter towards Carl. She was resentful. She blamed him for the fact that she was going to be financially desolate the rest of her life. She criticized Carl to her kids. Basically did everything she could to just wreak havoc. And I could say that there is a lot more involved here than just money, but a whole lot of it is money. And this is what happens when you don't have enough. In a previous episode, I talked about money being similar to oxygen. Too much and you get too much nitrogen, it burns your lungs. Too little and you end up gasping. Money can best be thought of like air. You just want enough. You don't want to be thinking about it. You don't want to be counting your breaths. You just need enough so that you can just live day to day and have the money to do what you need without always thinking about it. And that's part of the preparation that we've talked about in previous episodes and will continue to do so in this episode. So Brenda, the first wife, was judging personal success solely on financial success and the resources available to buy more things. I think that's a very dangerous way to look at things. I mean, there are plenty of situations that we've heard of where someone who's doing very, very well financially, it comes down crashing, and the next thing you know, there's an obituary for a suicide. I can't emphasize enough that the psychological weight of financially failing, especially if your net worth, so to speak, or your income, is tied to your self-worth. You must be able to dissect those two. They're not the same thing. And so much of this is applicable more to men than women, but it definitely can be the case with women as well. So healthy personal success involves financial wholeness. It involves psychological wholeness, certainly relational wholeness. And the best way to do this is to be open, conversing, honest, and transparent with your spouse about what you expect with money and what you expect for your future once retirement kicks in. Remember, retirement isn't just saying goodbye to your job and now we're just going to tour the world and read and do gardening, unless that's exactly what you want to do. We believe, and we've said throughout this program, that retirement in this generation is much more about a quest than it is just an adventure. Okay, and this begins with understanding what the other person in the relationship, and if you're single, obviously you just have to have this written down for yourself. Okay, but for so many people watching this that are couples, I can't say enough. Communication is so, so important. All right, in the next episode, we're going to get into the math. We're going to talk about why the math so much matters, and the math never changes. All right, don't miss that. We'll see you guys next time.